All right, welcome to a crossover of Pod Strickland and the Run Dot Down. I'm here today, right now, with Tyrese, Khan, and Stacy will be joining us shortly. The Knicks lost 124-105 to the Cavs tonight. Second night of a back-to-back. I don't think the actual result is that problematic. And honestly, like I don't know that with the personnel they had available to them, I don't know that they could have won this game either way. That's not, yeah, I don't mind the loss itself. I just think there's stuff that I don't know how you can watch this team and feel like you're closing the gap in terms of the way you're approaching these games. Not as far as, look, before I get into any negative stuff, I think it's worth mentioning, like, for all the shit we've said in a lot of these other previous, big matchups against the top teams in the league, they actually came out today and competed right from the start. They were locked in. I thought they fought hard. They ran out of gas to some extent, and I think that's understandable, again, given the limitations they have. But, and so credit to Tibbs and the team in general for that. But, look, you played 48 minutes of drop against the Cavs. I don't know. Like, yeah, would Mitch being back help? Sure. Would Deuce being back help? Sure. But, like, Deuce is probably going to play what, like maybe 25 minutes in a game like this. Mitch would play what, the precious minutes. So, like, I don't think that solves all of it. And I don't know that personnel is like, unless you have the best of all of these things, right? Like the best point of attack defender, the best drop defender, the best, like, you have to be able to scheme up an advantage or at least throw different things at them. And, you saw at the start of the game, just like the Knicks fighting hard and competing hard and OG going on a heater. Yeah, that was enough to get out to a nice lead. And it was enough to kind of keep the Cavs on their back heels for the first, maybe 15, 16, 17 minutes of the game. But you keep giving them the same looks over and over and over, they're going to figure it out. And that was the case. That's been the case in most of these games against the best teams. OKC, Boston, Cleveland. If you are not willing to be more aggressive in throwing different looks out there, that's just going to be a limitation. Again, tonight, like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, the Knicks lost this game because of Tibbs. Like, because I think that's bullshit. I don't think they lost this game because of Tibbs. But I still think there are things that you can take away from this game. Even with the expectation of, like, given the personnel you were missing and the fact that they were fully healthy and you're on a back-to-back and they're on 2 days rest, like, the deck is stacked against you, of course. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, if the Knicks did these 5 different things, they would have won the game. But you want to see them do different things. You want to see them throw different looks out there. And, that wasn't what happened. And that's just what it is at this point. Like, I don't really know what else to say because I don't know. Like, we're in year 5 of having Tibbs, and this is what it is. Like, he's going to pretty much stick to drop. They at least are now switching off ball screens more. They're switching guard, wing. But once it gets into ball handler, big guy, they play drop. And Mitchell fried them. Garland fried them. And, if if it wasn't them, it was them passing it off to somebody. It was kickouts to shooters. It was, dump offs to the bigs. And that's what it is. Like, you're not really challenging them and forcing them to do multiple things because you're not you're not throwing multiple coverages at them. You're not switching up in game, and it's what it is. So that was my main takeaways from the game. Like, again, I want to be really clear about this because I think anybody sitting here telling you after this game, like, oh, Tibbs lost us this game, I mean, that's not my takeaway. And that's not what I'm trying to say. I just think that regardless of the result, there are things that occur in this game that, that very specifically, the defensive kind of look, I guess you gave them, was not varied enough. And teams like that are going to punish you. We saw it again tonight. And, look, we played them one more time to close the season. We play Boston again as well. Hopefully that changes. I don't know why it would. Maybe I'm wrong. But we'll see what happens. Tyrese, any thoughts you wanted to expand on?
I mean, I would say that he doesn't. I don't care that he like didn't lose us this game, but he didn't really win us the game either. I think that's just kind of been the thing with Tibbs the entire season, where it's his coaching doesn't win us games. If this team wins games, it's on the back of their talent disparity that they have on most teams. I don't think he's really putting guys in position to affect the outcome of games to the point where they win games. And it's just been kind of paint by numbers coaching, throwing the fastball repeatedly instead of actually trying to like switch things up. I think you're seeing like guys trying to find different ways to score and develop in real time instead of him putting guys in situations where they can be better. I mean, this is the guy who I think he basically ran 8 today, which is again insane.
Yeah, it sounds better. I mean, I guess my question though would be like, who would you have wanted him to throw in that they didn't try? Like, I don't know. I feel like the guys he played are the guys that I would have been. I wasn't like looking at the bench being like, man, would love to see Marjan Beauchamp here.
I just think that there's a level of like banging your head against the wall when the Knicks come down on offense, in all honesty. And under my name, right, I said feels like Groundhog Day. I generally do like think that nothing has changed per se in terms of what the Knicks run with Brunson out. The names might change in terms of who's running what, but every time you're looking up at the shot clock, they're getting into action with 11 seconds left and they're still at the top of the key. Like they'll bring up the ball slow. A lot of times happen with Josh Hart, Precious, and Mikal. They were the first 3 involved in a lot of the action today when Precious was in there. And when Josh Hart brings the ball up slow, you basically start the half-court offense with 16 seconds left. He'll do a little lollipop pass to Precious at the top of the key. Then Precious will hand it back off. Mikal will come around a screen of some sort, catch it at the wing, and now you're working with really minimal flow. With about 10 seconds left, Mikal doesn't really have an advantage either, and you're asking them to cook in that situation. Just not a situation that's going to be conducive to winning basketball games when you're playing Cleveland. It's even more damning, like I said, when Precious is in there, because you have to elevate your play calls as a coach when you know your 5-man is not Karl Anthony Towns in that moment. So I kind of side more with Tyrese, and I would even say that I do think Tibbs kind of loses them this game. Not exactly like it's all Tibbs' fault, but in terms of like 1% gained loss type thing, I think Tibbs was a negative. Just gotta be honest.
EPA per play.
Yep, yes, EPA per play is the great Ben Johnson, excuse me, explained for the Chicago Bears.
So like I get that. What I would say is, one, I thought, like, you look at the shot, if you look at the box score, right? It's like, all right, you see Mikal has 6 shots. Oh, Tibbs has to do a better job getting him involved. I don't even disagree, like, in general, yeah. But I thought Mikal, they were being super physical with him. They started top blocking him, and he was not fighting through to get the ball. There were multiple times where there was one possession I remember in particular. I'm going to try and find it later. Maybe not, because I don't really want to rewatch the second half. But like he gets the ball, he comes around. It's exactly what you're talking about. The dribble handoff they run at the top of the key with him and Precious. He gets the ball from Precious. He kind of gets strung out to the sideline, so he throws it back to Precious. And then he just stands in the corner and like he kind of goes to the ball asking for it, but he doesn't go to Precious and go get the ball. Josh comes around, gets it. I think he might have scored on the play, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But the point being is, like, at some point, if you're Bridges in this scenario, especially, right, with Brunson out, knowing the kind of situation you're in, you have to take command of the possessions there. Like, there are possessions you need to take command of. Like, if Tyler Kolek's on the floor, like, I understand running the offense and playing off of that, but there are also moments and situations that dictate you as one of the primary scorers on the team, especially in lieu of Brunson being out. Yeah, you need to go take that responsibility on your own shoulders. That's not on Tibbs, that's on him. But yeah, I think with some of the offensive stuff we're seeing, like, yeah, it's really nice to see OG obviously kind of raise his game, and Bridges over the last however long Brunson's been out, for the most part, he's really raised his game as well. But like, it does feel a little bit more like they're just being asked to do more because Brunson's out. Like I do agree. Like I don't really think they're running a super varied offense or like they've changed up a bunch of how they're operating. I just think they are like the plays those guys will get run for them when Brunson's in. They're running that in more volume now because Brunson is out, so they have to make up that difference, right? That volume difference. I don't know. I just it's like a weird thing for me because I generally agree with you guys' point. I just don't. I have a hard time being like, yeah, Tibbs lost this game. I do think it's fair to say Tibbs, like some of the schematic stuff you see today, is not just about personnel, right? Like it's like they would run a lot of the things that and forgetting the offense, right? Because at least offensively, you could be like, look, maybe a lot of this stuff might just look. It will look better in a lot of situations when Brunson's back, right? Like the second half. It's like, okay, you could just see like they desperately needed a guy that could just string together like, all right, I'm going to get us 3, 4, 5 possessions in a row of me just, I know I can get to my spot. I can set guys up, whatever. They don't have that without Brunson. And like for all of the great coaching that Kenny Atkinson has done this year, I think like their third quarter in a large part was just like Donovan Mitchell and Garland cooking. Like it wasn't like some next level schematic stuff they were doing. It was just, hey, they're going to run drop. Let's put our best ball handler against these guys and drop. And that's what'll happen. But that's kind of to that point is where I agree with you guys, where it's like, you know, if it's that simple, then it's probably not good enough. And that's like, yeah, Karl-Anthony Towns is a bad drop defender. So you can put that on him. But if you're playing him in drop, I don't know really what to say at that point. Like I don't even think today there was a stage of the game where Towns started playing closer to the level. I don't remember that if it occurred. I didn't see it. Even Precious came in and initially he was kind of playing more aggressively in the pick and roll, but then after like 2 possessions, it was back to like they're just playing drop with Precious. And I don't know, like that stuff's like always concerning to me because one, Precious probably should not be playing, hopefully, when we're back at full strength. 2, if he is, the things that Precious is actually good at on defense is always, like, it's not drop, it's switching. Like, that's his strength as a defender. That's the thing that he can do actually very well. And if you're going to have him out at the 5, I don't know. Like, it's just weird to me to not ever really try and explore that. I don't remember them trapping Mitchell at all or Garland in the pick and roll. I don't remember them blitzing. You know, I just, if that's what it is, that's what, like, somebody could point, I'm sure you can find individual possessions and moments in games where that changes. And we've seen him be a little bit more willing to adapt, you know, in the playoffs at times. But I feel like still, even then, in general, you're getting way less variation than most coaches. I mean, if you just look at our playoff series last year, especially the Pacers series, you just look at all the different shit they threw at Brunson versus like the stuff that we were throwing at Halliburton. I think there's just a world of difference there. So I don't know. Tibbs is a really good coach. But is he a championship coach? I don't think so. I don't think this is the game to necessarily, this is definitely not the game to be like, to make that determination. We'll make that determination in the playoffs. But schematically, I'm not inspired by what we've seen so far, and that remains what it is. All right, I'm going to get to some comments here. H22, McCall, big disappointment again in a big game. I don't care about the loss, but I'm very worried about him in the playoffs. McCall would get the ball, waste like 6 seconds, then throw it to Hart, making him force up a shot. He's just not aggressive in these games, man. I agree. I thought McCall needed to be way more aggressive. I also think, like, I don't know what it is with him. He's, like, incapable of just pulling up, like,
from 3.
Not forget the 3. I mean, that's its own thing. But yeah, that too, I agree. But like, once you turn the corner, you're allowed to just like stop at the elbow or like and pop. And I feel like he always feels this need to like drift out
to the baseline,
or then he like gets to the elbow and then he wants to pick up the dribble and then turn and there's nothing. And it's like he's got to just like there. It's okay to just get to the elbow and just pull up. Like that does not happen. But yeah, I don't disagree. I thought McCall was, he's got to be way more aggressive in these games. And I can sit here and be like, Tibbs needs to do more to get him involved. But like on a night like tonight, I think that's just more on him. I think he needed to get himself more involved, and he didn't do that.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty scared of the Cavs' physicality. He looked like he was scared of the Cavs' physicality. And I think this has been a running issue where teams play physical against him, but you can kind of take him out of the game, especially his offense. And defensively, he doesn't have the ability to like play physical against other guys. I think he had like one kick against Mobley, which was like pretty encouraging, where like he went to the rim against him and he had like
he had a layup.
Yeah, he had a layup.
I think it was driving him down the right.
Yeah, it was in the first half.
Yeah, and then he finished with the left hand under the rim.
Just do that, dude.
And it's frustrating, man, because he has the layup package to be effective against bigs, against smaller guys. In all these different type of settings where he might be going downhill in a straight line, or he might have to be coming off of a screen and curling. It's maddening because, like I started off saying, the thing about Tibbs not running plays for these guys, which I fully believe is an contributing factor, but it is on McHale to say, fuck this shit, man, give me the rock, or just say, pass it to me and I'm going to the basket. So whether that's in him, I'm not positive. In a matchup like this, I'm not sure. Just kind of speaks to the fact that OG is the number 3 guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think with McHale, what I think is just a fact is like, one, the refs were letting the level of physicality they were allowing Cleveland to get away with, I thought was a lot higher than what we were allowed to get away with. That being said, like that's what it is. That was the game that was being called. You have to figure it out. And I just thought he got taken out of his game. I thought I don't even know if it was about being scared or whatever, but it's like, yeah, man, it's tough. Like I get it. They're grabbing you, they're holding you, they're pushing you around. Like I get that, but you have to fight through that. And you have to find ways to stay involved in plays. You have to find ways to go get the ball. Like go get the fucking ball. When you see Precious has the ball, go get the ball. When you see, Tyler Kolek, who's played all of like 300 minutes so far this season, is at the top of the key and he has nowhere to go with it, go help him out. Say whatever you want about Josh Hart's limitations, but the guy will go get the ball in those moments and he'll at least look to do something. He will go get that fucking ball. And McHale didn't do that today. So that's on him. I will say, I do think some of the issues he had as far as creating, like OG's bigger, he's just more physical, so he can kind of power through some of the, he can just power through some of these, let's say, some of the worse, the lesser spacing that was on offer today, given the fact that we were starting Dylan Wright and Josh Hart together. And McHale had to play a lot of those precious minutes, right, with Hart and Wright too, which was not fantastic. But like, so those things don't help either, because you could just, in the second half especially, if you go back and watch it, they're literally not defending Josh Hart or Dylan Wright at all. They were not defending them. As soon as they were just loading up, they're just loading up the paint, and they're like, all right, swing, like, because he actually did make a lot of like good passes to those guys, but it's frustrating because you're like, dude, I don't want you to pass to fucking Dylan Wright in the corner. I want you to just shoot the ball, because Dylan Wright, he makes like if he makes 2 threes in a game, you just got to be happy with that and like not expect it to continue. Like that's it. You can't go to that well too often, but it's a tough situation, but he's got to play better than he did tonight for sure. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about it. Kenny Muir, the shot quality between both teams stand out in these games against the Celtics and the Cavs. It was same even with Jalen Brunson. I can't disagree. That's kind of why, like, I don't know if Tibbs lost us the game, but to what Tyrese said, right? It's like, but are you moving the needle in our direction either? Because all that really happened to me today was we started off really hot from 3. And Josh Hart actually made some threes. OG was obviously on fire in the first half. What Dylan Wright, did he hit 1 3 or 2 threes, whatever it was? But like, guys got out to a good shooting start, and that's good. But I don't think there was a lot of fantastic offense. There was one possession that was really nice, that Delon Wright behind the bat, over the head pass back to OG in the corner. And that was them. That was actually an example of the Cavs kind of lacking a little bit of discipline on defense, because once Wright puts the ball on the deck, they just, whoever it was, they just stopped tracking OG, and OG was able to spot back up in the corner. He filled it once Delon left, and he got a wide open three out of that. But like, those are not going to be there all the time against, obviously, these teams. And, you know, how much of the shot quality is about what the Knicks are running versus like the personnel they have available, I couldn't tell you. But to the point that Kenny's making here, like, it's hard for me to say that they would have 100% had a, you know, better quality of shots with Brunson on the floor, just because we've seen this team play these teams with Brunson on the floor, and it's not like they're getting a bunch of high quality looks in those games either.
So besides just the quality of the looks, I think the bigger issue is obviously Mikal only took 6 shots. All right, like we've talked about that, but it's different if he takes 4 threes or if he takes 1 3 like he did in this game. So he took 1 3. Cat only took 3 of them. You have Delon Wright taking 5 by himself, so more than both of them combined. And then between Delon Wright and Josh Hart, they put up 14 threes. So you look in the box score and you see 36 threes for us, 37 threes for the Cavs. All right, cool. Pretty similar number. But you dig into what it was in terms of who shot, you know, which shots. That's not the 14 attempts who you want those guys to be, who you want to be, you know, shooting those from. I just fucking stutter like shit, but it's fine. Strus and Donovan Mitchell, 11 combined. Throw in Garland, that's 15. You got 15 from 3 of your best shooters, probably your 3 best shooters flat out, whereas the Knicks put up 14 from their 2 worst shooters. Not counting Precious, because he'll never take a fucking 3 again in a game like this. So, you know, you could put up threes all you want, but if it's threes from guys who can't shoot the rock, what are we getting at? Like, that's the type of stuff that infuriates me. And that's the type of thing where you know that you're not getting up the shots that you want from 3, and you are not going into your bag at all to create any type of shot off of the catch, you know, off of movement for a guy like Mikal. You know, even if you want to get Kolek a shot, you know, something like that.
Tyrese.
Yeah, I don't hate the fact that Josh Hart took threes. I mean, I'm happy to kind of see him take threes. I thought they were within the rhythm of the offense. I thought he was aggressive with the trigger, which he hasn't been in a couple weeks, I want to say.
It was good because he took the night off yesterday, so it was good for him.
Yeah, like, I think it's just like Cat, you want to see more than 3 threes. Mikal, more than 1. Like, I don't know how you took 1 3 in 36 minutes of play. That just makes no sense to me.
They actually only attempted 1 less 3 today than Cleveland, which is kind of funny. But I guess that makes sense because the third quarter they were just like, all right, we're just going to get in the paint constantly here, and that's that.
And just not take threes. And they were like, oh, Cleveland's going to back cut us? We're going to back cut them. Fight fire with fire. And it just did not work.
It doesn't work because, like, there's way more, like, structure to what Cleveland is doing with their their back cuts are not instinctive. Like, I don't know how to put this, but the Knicks are running back cuts when guys back cut, it is with, like, it's like you're playing off of the primary action, and so, like, that's what it is. But there's not much to the offense beyond that. Like, you're not flowing into secondary stuff and then flowing into something else. Like, it's very much like, this is the action, figure it out off that, and whatever. We've talked about this all season. With Cleveland, there's just a lot more flow to their offense. Like, they're getting into way more actions when they need to. And to be quite honest with you, like, they didn't need to today, so I don't think they really did a lot of that. Like, they were able to just kind of, again, attack the drop, and, you know, over the course of 48 minutes, they figured out what they needed to do, and they did it. And once they figured it out, that was that. Like there was really no way to stop them. That that you could really point to. Like I don't know. It didn't matter who was at the point of attack, right? It didn't matter if it was OG. It didn't matter if it was Hart. It didn't matter if it was McCall. Certainly didn't matter if it was going to be fucking Shamit or Kolek. Like you're not challenging them. I mean, I don't know if you guys watch on ESPN or on MSG. On MSG, actually, even Wally kind of mentioned at the end of the game where he was like, look, like, McCall probably needs to do better here, but like you've got Cat in a deep drop. That's just asking a lot of Mikal Bridges to like stop, contain everything at the point of attack and get back in front of the ball and all these type of things. And I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think that's 100% accurate. Like now, again, would it be better if you had Mitch back there instead of Cat? Absolutely. Absolutely, it's going to be better because Mitch is an actual elite drop defender, whereas Cat is a horrible drop defender. But like, is that enough? And it can't be enough, right? Because Cat's going to play fucking like 35 minutes a game. And Mitch
in the playoffs, he's playing probably 40.
Yeah, and Mitch is limited. Like, I don't think they can actually push Mitch beyond 20, even if, we get to some point where he's mythically, okay, now he's at full strength and there are no limitations on him. Like, I mean, there might not be any limitations on him per se, but I think we all know, like, Mitchell Robinson is not a guy that you can push to play like 32 minutes that consistently or something. He's a guy who's generally been at his best, especially over the last couple of years with the injuries kind of taking their toll on him. 20, 25 minute night guy. That's useful. Is that 20 to 25 minutes is going to give you enough to simply just to make the scheme more viable against a team like OKC and Boston and Cleveland, obviously, for 48 minutes? I don't think so. I mean, yes, it'll make it more viable, but is that really you're going to win a 7-game series just because of that? I don't see it. I struggle with that.
By the way, he is 73% free throw shooter, Mitchell Robinson now.
Oh, that's right. 11 of 15 from the line so far this year.
We take the sample sizes however we can get. Plus the form legitimately looks like decent. So yeah.
It's like we actually even saw this right against Boston in the last game we played against them, where like or last couple of guys we played against them, where it's like, oh, okay, Deuce is in now, so now like you have your best point of attack defender on the ball. And you're able to slow them down for like a quarter, right? Like we made a run against Boston in the third quarter, the last 2 times we played them, where Deuce played more. But after a certain point in time, they figured it out, right? They're like, oh, okay, so that's it. Like you're not going to get perfect 48 minutes of defense just with personnel alone. You have to have more to it than that. And I don't know, it's just not there. And I think that's a reason why the shot quality is different. Because if you look at how I mean, I don't even know if Cleveland really did too much there other than just like lock in on who to just help off of and live with shooting open threes and OG not going on a heater. But like, you can definitely see it at the bare minimum. Those teams are like, you've seen it against Boston, you've seen it against Cleveland and Oklahoma City, where they're like, okay, Josh Hart's in the game. Like we're going to funnel the ball towards him if he's just spotting up at the 3-point line. And, as far as like, what could Tibbs do and make this stuff easier? Like, I don't know. I think it's weird that we don't get more Josh on the ball reps with Brunson out, because like if he's out there, especially with Dylan Wright, the only time he's going to be defended is when he has the ball and when he's actually driving the ball. And so like, if you're just having him spot up or stand on the, in the corner or wherever, and it's like Josh play off of the action and like shit like that, like, I don't know. It just, to me, that's not intentional enough. And I think that to me is where you can just see the difference in a team like Cleveland, right? Like you played tonight where, yeah, I mean, Allen and Mobley are out there together a lot of times and they're not spacers, but like they're able to keep good spacing and they're able to produce threes and they're able to kind of like force you to defend all 5 guys on the floor. I get it. It's not a clean comparison because they're 2 bigs and Josh Hart's on a big, whatever. But I still think there are ways you can utilize if they're not going to defend Josh Hart. Right? If they're not going to defend him, there are ways to leverage that off the ball as a screener. There are ways to get around that by giving them put the ball in his hands. Like Dylan Wright, I'm not going to blame him. Like the guy's, he wasn't even supposed to be in the rotation. Yeah, he's not even supposed to be in the rotation. He's giving you what he can give you. But like, yeah, he might be a point guard heavy air quotes here, but like you can't tell me he's a more dynamic player off the bounce than Josh Hart. So yeah, it is what it is.
Also,
I don't know.
I just want to have one little like rant or whatever you want to call it on the cutting and stuff that you brought up earlier. When the play involves movement, right, from everybody on the court, when the play involves everybody to expect the ball at a certain point, when it involves everybody to know that they can have the ball at any point passed to them, so they have to have their head on a swivel, it changes things. I think you saw it a lot when plays broke down for Cleveland. I think that they have a culture of moving the ball. Not to say that we don't, but it's just better than ours. I think that it's encouraged more. I think it's at the forefront of their minds a bit more than ours. And I do think that's a coaching no, I don't want to say issue, but that is a coaching
It's a point of
whatever
emphasis.
you want. Yeah, a point of emphasis, sure. So there was a couple times where they got an offensive rebound and nobody knows what the fuck is going on at all. They'll swing it around, somebody will drive. And there was a play that stood out where off of a pass from the corner to the top of the wing, I think it was Sam Merrill maybe who drove and then threw a pass right over the back of his head for an easy dunk. And I just thought to myself, like, for all of the offensive rebounds that we get, I don't recall too many sequences like that throughout this whole season. And the Cavs are out here doing it to us, and what's supposed to be a high intensity playoff type game. So I think that when you have a stagnant offense like that, you don't open yourself up to the opportunities where chaos is happening and we know how to react to this chaos. Because you can't react to chaos when you're sitting in the same place for 18 seconds of the shot clock.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I think there's just more clear structure to what they do. Feels like we still freelance a lot. It's also why you get these, like,
the amount of times that I saw like a cat post up with two corners occupied and two wings occupied, and he's just right in the middle, like the free throw line, with Jared Allen on him. He's palming the ball, keeping it away, and there's really nowhere for him to go. It's just aggravating. It's just aggravating. You can't run one flare screen off of that stuff. This is basic things. This is stuff that you implement in high school.
I mean, I think you even see this like with. I mean, look, this. I'm just going to read this off. So this is Jalen Brunson. Last game he played was Lakers game. I'm just going to read off 3-point attempts in our game since then, just because I think this kind of illustrates the point of it kind of being a little bit random. 34, 40, 31, 24, 34, 37, 39, 35, 26, 34, 33, 25, 31, and then today was 36. Like it's I don't know. It just seems like the volume isn't really where you ideally would like it to be in a lot of cases. But two, there's also just like these weird swings where it's like it feels like so much of this gets dictated by the opponent, and in large part you're not again, like he is limited by personnel, so I get that. But with the injuries and everything, but like it also feels like you're allowing teams to dictate things. And so, like, yeah, man, if you put Dylan Wright and Josh Hart on the floor for the first, however many minutes of each half, it's going to be hard to get up a volume of threes if you're not really, really intentional about like what you want from those guys off ball. If you're not really, really specific with that, and a lot of times you just see them like, to the point you made earlier. Yeah, like, okay, yeah, I would like Mikal to be more aggressive, no question about it. But you'll see him get the ball, and then it's like Josh Hart's in the corner, Dylan Wright's on the wing on the same side of the floor, and you're like, dude, that's just they're gonna have like both those guys are gonna be basically
You're gonna
playing
take
in
two
between.
dribbles. You're gonna take two dribbles and get triple teamed, and then you'll look like a chicken without a head trying to find somebody to pass the ball to, and you'll turn it over. And that's what it is. There's also the point of like, then you throw Precious in there. It makes it 10 times worse. So I think
especially when
Dwight,
they use Precious as the on-ball screener, and like he's just a terrible on-ball screener. Like he never affects the ball, the defender at all, the point of attack defender, and I don't even know, like, it's what he is. You know what I mean? Like at some point, like I can sit here and be like, I wish Precious was a better screener. He's a terrible screener, and it's true. But also, like, that's what he is. Like, this is what he is as a player. So if you're still asking him to do those things, I don't get it. Like, at least throw Josh Hart as the screener, because we know that he can, look, if they're gonna, like, they were getting really, really aggressive at points, especially at the end of the first half and early in the second half, where Mikal would come off the screen and you'd see like the big jump at him, and like they're almost like trapping him in some ways. And like Precious doesn't really offer you a release valve in those situations. Josh is intuitive, right? Josh can, like, he'll be able to kind of potentially make himself available, and now you have a better situation. But that wasn't the case today. Again, you're very basic in kind of there is structure to what we do, but it's very, very basic, and it doesn't seem quite as, or not quite. It just doesn't seem as varied as a lot of these other elite teams. Kenny also says this: Knicks have played Celtics, Cavs, and Thunder 8 times this year. Cat has played well in one quarter, third quarter last time versus the Celtics. Tunnel vision on his drives. You can see why he's a playoff dropper. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a fair criticism of him. It's actually something I've brought up previously on some of our pods, where, like, I think it's great that he's willing to attack the basket from the top of the key as a driver, but you can see that the best teams are going to be able to sit on that and give him problems in a way that, you're not going to get that maybe against the fucking Hornets in November or something. So that's also a concern for sure. Stacy, what's up?
What's up? No, I agree with that. I think we should not overstate the degree to which Cat is a quote unquote playoff dropper. He's still averaging 18 and 10 on 58 true shooting. But there's you see the decision making from Brunson. It's never perfect, but you see Cat, and there's just things you're like, Brunson would do that. It's not that exactly, right? But even the smallest thing, he set a screen for, I don't remember if it was Bridges or Anunoby, and then he like turns and just kind of stands there, not too far away. And if you're a pick and pop big, if you watch Porzingis, he's moving far away and spacing because they do not want to give up a three to you. And it seems like those little things are things he doesn't take advantage of. The defense is the defense, but they've had a pretty good defense with him the last 10, 15 games since Brunson went out. And I was disappointed in Towns. He was second night of a back-to-back and all of that, but
well, he didn't even play last night.
Yeah, he didn't play last night. So it's just we need more from him in this matchup because of how active their bigs are. I don't know how many offensive rebounds the Knicks gave up, but it's a category they won pretty substantially in their last, when they played them in the playoffs. Yeah, so the Knicks did get 15 offensive rebounds, and Cat himself had 3 of them. They played them even on offensive rebounds. But I think there's, I would have liked to see Mitchell Robinson out there because, there's certain, but even beyond that, I think that there's like, Cat is so fucking good. Like, I'm not going to deny that. Like, the guy can get his shot off in an instant. He can drive. He can, even if he's cut off, he can just bully his way in and get a foul call, even against a guy like Evan Mobley. He did that a bunch of times. But like those little details, right? Spin hard. And if you're going to roll or cut, whatever you do, roll or pop, whatever you're going to do, make a hard decision and go for it. That's what I do think we're missing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd say about I would say that if you look at the schedule since Brunson's been out, I mean, look, we have those 2 awful losses to the Spurs and the Hornets. That aside, I would say that we've taken care of business against the teams that we should take care of business against. But the game this reminded me the most of was the Clippers game, where it was like you get off to a really good start. They're able to kind of close the gap before halftime. And then in the second half, they make some adjustments. The Knicks don't really adjust. And their superior talent at this point now wins out. And I don't want to say superior talent. I just think like their talent's leveraged in ways that ours isn't, and that obviously not having Brunson certainly, I mean that makes it harder. But I think you also just see like, yeah, I mean, some of these really good teams are going to be able to adjust, and if you are not able to throw stuff at them, the gap's going to close, and it's going to be hard to close out that game in the second half. So, it's what it is. As far as Cat's concerned, like, I think there's just something to look. We can sit here and say Tibbs needs to do a better job of leveraging him. They need to be more specific with maybe instructions for him. But these are a lot of the criticisms that Timberwolves fans had about him as well, where it's like he likes to drift. He drifts inside the arc for no reason. And you're like, dude, we need you to stay fucking spaced. Like, we need you to stay spaced out. And he doesn't want to do that. He weirdly, like, I don't know, it's just so hit or miss with him on nights where he decides I'm going to pull the trigger on a bunch of threes versus nights where he's like, I'm just going to try and attack the rim today and pump fake and drive and pump fake and drive and pump fake and drive. And you're like, can you just shoot a couple more threes though? That would help the cause. So like this, again, sometimes players are who they are and it's not about coaching. And is that the case here? I don't know. And I would say, I mean, let's just say that is the case. I still think there are ways that you can leverage what he provides more productively than we do. I mean, I don't think we ran I think we ran one high pick and roll with him and Kolek when Kolek was in the game. And that's not an argument for like, we need to put the ball in Kolek's hands and get it going here. But like, it might be something to explore because that's the entire appeal of Kolek is like, he was a really good pick and roll player. And obviously Cat is a very, very dynamic pick and pop, pick and roll option. And offense was hard to come by. Offense was very hard to come by for the Knicks in the second half. So does it not make sense to maybe go to that? Because nothing was working at that time. So just throw that out there. It's the fact that you don't see that is always so weird to me.
I think sorry. I think the thing with Cat and, whether he gets up 3 threes or 10 threes in a game and the floating in and out of the 3-point line stuff, I think it has to do with a lot of the identity or like missing identity, I guess is the better way to say it, of this team. I think a lot of times internally, they might be looking at themselves and saying, we were this type of team last season. Even the guys who weren't here, I could see that being a talking point just because of this fan base. And, a lot of us who cover the team have made it a talking point at times as well. So with that, and then with them in general just not being really decisive in what kind of shots they want or what kind of shots they want to be hunting out on a nightly basis, it kind of lends itself to guys floating in, floating out, getting up 2 threes, and then the next night getting up 11. So I find it troubling that, this is whatever game 75. I'm not entirely sure what game it is, but
76.
And 76, and we don't know going into a
rule
certain
number
game.
76, Con. Rule number 76.
He doesn't understand the reference.
I don't. I know like the reference of like there's certain rules and like you called them out, but like I don't know where it's from.
Wedding
So-
Crashers. Go home and watch that after this, by the way. I know it's 10:30 on the East Coast, but as the rule says, no excuses. Play like a champion.
Do you have that memorized? Rule 76. No excuses, play like a champion.
I mean, I'm sure there's movies and shit that you watch that you got memorized. So
Okay.
Rule
yeah,
76, no excuses, play like a champion.
That's fair. I just if I don't know what it is and the players don't know what it is, I think that is a problem. And I keep coming back to coaching being the thing that I point the finger at. And not to say again that Tibbs has done a bad job, but it is possible to not be doing a good job while also not be doing a bad job, right? Like you could just be mediocre. And I think that being mediocre has been very, very detrimental thing to this team that clearly needs you to be kind of helping them float during times where they start to sink.
It's fair. Jordan Bubb says Mikal Bridges tonight, 6 field goal attempts. Thought Brunson isn't going to get it done. Agreed. We talked about that earlier. Kenny Muir, Josh Hart, a team leading 19 shots. Tyrese mentioned he wins playoff games. Well, yeah, because smart teams scheme their defense to dare him to beat them. He played well tonight, but the jumper is broke. I think ultimately what this is to me, it's Josh Hart should not be your 5th starter. Like in an ideal world, Josh Hart would be coming off the bench, and I think his limitations matter way, way less coming off the bench. And I think
Do you think he's coming off the bench on every other contending? We talk about the top 3 teams,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think
Yes.
he's not starting over Luguentz Dort or
no shot.
Dort can
He's
shoot.
not.
Dort can shoot
He's
threes.
not. She's not starting over anybody in OKC starting lineup. He's not starting over anybody in Boston starting lineup. And he's not starting at anybody over Cleveland starting lineup. Like there's no shot. And that like it's not even like I hate. This is not even a knock on him. Like he's being asked to do this. He's doing it to the best of his ability, and he has played a lot of minutes for this team over the last couple of seasons. And he's done. I mean, last year he played the 4 for like the last 35 games of the year, whatever the hell it was. Like he's done a lot for this team. He's put himself on the line for this team. So I'm not going to sit here and like go off the fucking rails, but trash him for what it is. But to this point, like he is ideally a bench player. And I think when you move him to the bench, I think he actually gives you then, I mean, we saw it when he was coming off the bench, there's a level he gives you, there's juice he gives you off the bench that can elevate your team in a way that I don't think you get from him in that starting lineup. Not consistently anyway. And that's pretty important. How do the Knicks get a 5th starter? What do they want from a 5th starter is also something to consider. Like, are we sure that they want another wing, or do we think they would like to go with a double big look? I'm not totally sold on that. It would not surprise me if they preferred to get a center with ball skills to put next to Towns, and make that kind of like the way they move forward moving next season. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying, like, I think it's not, it would not, like, let's just put it this way. They've been connected to Walker Kessler, like several times. It would not surprise me if that is something that they are still looking into this offseason.
That's what happened with OG, right? So
yeah. So, and I think the fact that they have been so interested in Walker Kessler, even after trading for Karl Anthony Towns, I think that kind of gives it away. Well, I think so. I think that gives it away what they think is the way to move forward and build this starting lineup long term. We'll see if that happens.
So I've given a lot of thought to that starting 5 question that you brought up about whether it should be a wing or another big. And just for this,
hold on. Let's save this for after. I want to get to more comments, and then because we're going to talk about the game. Then I want to talk about, because there's some news that came out today from the great Shams on the very, very professional Pat McAfee show. So we will talk about that after. Kenny Muir says, you can't run the same defense over and over against the elite team. There's been no adjustments in these games. Teams know exactly what to expect scheme-wise versus the Knicks. Agree. Tay212 says, the vent session I needed. Good to see you. Daniel Berry Sports, evening to you said as well. Retro, Hart said last night, I just want to compete. We are down, guys, which is just loser energy, which allows you to completely give up in the fashion they did. I agree. I didn't love that comment. To his credit, I thought he competed pretty hard. And I got to say, he deserves some credit, because I could tell, you could tell, I mean, not just me, but
he was fighting 3 guys on the glass every time. Like,
he also was definitely upset about the whistle. And I thought he did a very good job of like staying composed and not letting it totally take him out of his game. But you could see the frustration building with him. And yeah, to your point, like he was battling, like, but I didn't love that comment, and I did not. I think they definitely let go of the rope in that midway through the 4th quarter for sure.
I don't think they let go of the rope. I think, one, they're playing a team that's really optimized right now. You can see the difference when a coach. I mean, look, they have their own issues too. Mobley is shooting now, but they have their own issues in terms of fit too. They have optimized for it. You can say that's continuity, that's all of that, but that is a big difference. I don't think is there a guy like Cat? I think did seem to give up a little bit, but this was not a banner Cat performance. On a day when we should shout out someone who had some non-banner performances that got voted in the Hall of Fame, Carmelo Anthony. Well, I think you'd agree with my point, right? I think it's these kind of. Well, my point I'm making is that these kind of performances where Melo could do more and he didn't, and I think that's what we saw from Cat tonight a little bit. But other than that, I don't think it was really. I don't think they let go of the rope.
I mean, I think that they saw the writing on the wall midway through the fourth quarter. They were not exactly dying to get back into the game there. Now, like, is that understandable or whatever? Like, sure. I mean, I don't know, but I think there's been. Look, at some point, we can understand each one of these losses or whatever, and this one for sure against one of these elite teams. Of all the losses they've had, I think this one is like the one where you're least inclined to just completely shit on the team and be like, what the fuck are we doing? Because you're down, key players. I mean, Brunson by himself is obviously a major loss, but I think not having Mitch and not having Deuces, that matters as well. So I get that.
Well, especially in this matchup, right? Because you're losing your best point of attack and defender, and you're a guy who literally dominated this team. Yeah, it's not the same team. But
I don't think the
those
size
two guys, that's pretty big, right?
Well, I also think
even Deuce in that series, he played 5 minutes against Donovan Mitchell and had him in hell, right? So,
well, it's also a matchup where the two guys, like you're not that worried about matching up their backcourt size, so it makes it even more viable.
But I'd still disagree on that because Deuce is they have a very good backcourt, and if you don't have great point of attack defenders, Deuce really helps there, and he did even in limited time in that series.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, but I think you were emphasizing more the front court size. I think I wouldn't discount the backcourt size, but if I misunderstood you, then that's fine.
No, I'm just saying that you don't need to worry about the back. Like, this is not a matchup where you're like, oh, their two guard is so big.
Cleveland is also small.
Yeah, their two guard is so big, so it's really hard to justify having.
I see. I'm just saying I think Deuce is more important in this matchup just because of how great he is at point of attack, and they have two great, ball handlers that are.
I mean, it matters, but then to the point is like, do I trust that Tibbs would see it that way and utilize the talent that way? Like, this is where I don't know how to take all of this stuff. Like, because I think there's worlds where all this stuff is very important, but then we also have to believe that the coach is going to kind of play the matchup game in a way that we, quite frankly, have not seen him do in ever. So
I have no faith in him to do it at any point in his tenure here.
If he does it, it'll be like a one-off thing. Like, it's not like, it was actually kind of funny because Wally, most of the time he talks about his experience as an NBA player. I want to just shoot myself. But today he said he was like, I didn't play in one series in the second round at all. And then I played in the Eastern Conference Finals every game because matchups kind of dictate, and that's just how the playoffs are. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I know that a lot of coaches feel that way, but I don't think Tibbs is one of those coaches. And
no, he's not.
That's just I agreed with this point, and I agree with your point that Deuce could be really, really useful in a matchup like this. I just don't know that Tibbs would ever leverage it that way. Tay 2-2 asks, we can run drop every play, but Cat covers it different every time. Is it technically the same coverage? Yeah, I think that I don't know what. I think the best way for me to answer this question would be that if you ask Cat to play drop exclusively, you're going to get a lot of stupid positioning things from him in drop. He definitely doesn't cover it the same way every time, and that's 100% on him. But if you know that he does bullshit like this and he's not good in drop, it's very odd, again, to me, to ask him to exclusively play drop. I don't get that. I don't get it. And today was another example. Jordan Bubb mentioned this, and this is true. only traps with wings were near sidelines when Mitchell and Garland were ball handlers in pick and roll. Yeah, that was the only times you see them. They like ice the pick and roll towards the sideline a lot of times. Even then, they're not aggressive traps, and I don't know. The
Well, with the
defense in
whistle
general,
tonight, the whistle tonight maybe.
but it's not
bit.
just the whistle tonight. It's right. Like we've seen this every fucking game we've played against one of these teams. We're not aggressive with that, and we never have been. We never will be, probably. You just don't see it. Like again, it's what it is. I don't really know what else there is to say about it.
I just hate that. I just hate that I feel like every game I know what it's going to come down to. I feel like every time I watch the Knicks, it's going to be, all right, do we get hot from 3? Yes, no. If it's yes, we probably win. If it's no, we are going to lose. And a lot of that is attributed to the NBA being the way that it's played, right, in 2025. It's just kind of the nature of the beast when everybody's getting up 43 pointers a game. But there's always the deeper dive into how are you getting those 3-pointers? How are they, allowing you to get those 3-pointers? And every game, it's, okay, we're going to run a high ball screen. If Brunson's in the lineup, we're going to run the high ball screen. He's going to create, he's going to do his thing. He's going to score if he has a shot. If he's not, and people are taking it away, he's going to find a shooter. That's period, point blank, right, when Brunson's in the lineup. When he's not in the lineup, it's substituting his name for OG or Mikhail. And on defense, it's, we're going to play drop. And how many times have we come on here and said the Celtics knew we were playing drop? So they did this, and that, and they had an open 3 waiting wide open in the corner for them. How many times have we got on here and said, okay, the Celtics know that the Knicks are going to run this, so they switch it, and the Knicks have no answer. I can't watch all these games and be able to tell from the first 8 minutes if we're going to win or not. It's maddening to me. I hate when I can do that and kind of predict what's going to happen. Even we went up, whatever it was, 17 points. I had no confidence in this because it was OG hitting contested shots. Cleveland was getting good shots and missing them. Like the defensive intensity was good for usually about 18 to 20 seconds. And then more towards like that early second into the mid and late second quarter, they were starting to crack us. So I just don't think that there's ever any like variation of.
Well, it is the second game of back-to-back, right? On that last point, it's they're running an 8-man rotation. They're hurt. It's second game of back-to-back against 60-win team, right?
Yeah, and that's another thing though. Like it's a second game of back-to-back, and we're injured. Yeah, but we all knew Tibbs was going to run an 8-man lineup. We all knew that they weren't going to call up a guy like Pacome to play at all, even for 5 minutes. We knew that was going to happen. Everything in these games is stuff that we know is going to happen. Like, forget.
And to be honest, like if you're the front office, it's actually the right thing to do. To be like, no, we're just going to leave Pacome and McCullough in Westchester because the coach isn't going to fucking play them.
Well, let me ask you this, Schwinn. If Pacome was on OKC is weird because they have a million fucking draft picks. Do you think in a different
Baylor Shireman has been playing recently for the Celtics. I think he's played more total minutes this season than Tyler Kolek, which is like whatever. I mean, I'm not going to say again. It's not.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the point too. It's like it's always the burden to be like, do you think he'd be better than the guy he's playing over? It's like no, but
give him a shot.
It helps. It helps you also to just have more options, right? So you don't think so? I'm asking you, right? Do you think even with Dadier, who I will totally, or Dadier or Kolek or whoever, I'm not the biggest Kolek guy, right? I like what he brings to the offense. There's obviously a lot of work to do there, but I think he's a talented player. But even we're not here for development, right? We're here to win now. Do you think the majority of other teams, in the Knicks position would be playing those guys more? All of those guys, even McCullough. I mean, McCullough was injured, whatever, but Dadier and Kolek, I think, are the big.
I don't think McCullough would be playing. I do believe that Pacome would be playing because I think Pacome is at the necessary athletic threshold and he has enough of a shooting ceiling, even as a rookie, to where he can hang on defense, and he's not somebody who gets helped off of in the half court. When it comes to McCullough, I'm not so sure about that, especially the second part with his shot.
But I mean, I think part of it is also like we're judging this on like, can they be better than the guy they're? Pacom Daddier is probably not a better player than Landry Shamet right now. I'm willing to say that, right? Landry Shamet, for all his flaws, it is like, yeah, we get mad like you didn't make an open three. He fights and he knows where to be, right? I'm not discounting those things. Do you think other teams just look at it differently than Tibbs does?
Yeah,
Like, even contending teams.
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
I think it's not even a question. Like if Tibbs was the OKC coach, do you think that half of these guys would ever even get a fucking shot? Like these random dudes, like Isaiah Joe and fucking Aaron Wiggins.
Isaiah Joe is different. I gotta fucking stand up for that guy. That guy.
He was a second. No, fuck that. No, fuck that. He was a second round pick.
Never have gone that low.
It doesn't matter. He was a second round pick who got waived. He was a second.
I would have taken over fucking Obi.
It doesn't matter what the fuck you would do, Stacey. I'm not asking you what would Stacey Patton do if he was the fucking coach of the Knicks. That's not the question. I get what you're saying.
But like the point is that he is a little different in that he's like an insane shooter. And he always was. And it was stupid that he fell to that.
It takes like would he eventually get a chance? Maybe. He would not get a chance as fast. He would not get a chance as fast as he did with OKC. Like that's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. And that's like
it wouldn't have happened at the Knicks. I agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
And it's like I don't question this. Is there a method? Or is there method to Tibbs's madness as far as player development? No, because I think that is true. Like he is pretty good at player development. I think that's like been proven over time. Does he get the most out of that? Like, does he benefit as much as he should from the work he does with player development as fast as he should? I don't think so. And I think that's where it becomes frustrating. All right. Ashmaster says, not sure what was worse. Cat trying to force drives into a Mobley Allen blockade, or Wally dick riding Tibbs for starting Alfred Payton. That was hilarious.
There are still Alfred Payton truthers out there. He was more of a true point guard than Quickly. It's like people I respect and like their takes in general, but my God, if you haven't gotten off of that 4 years.
Chris B says you can't get a touch at the free throw line and then throw Dylan Wright a grenade if you're Mikal. I agree. He needed to shoot more. Jared R. Cat could get stabbed while driving to the basket, and the refs would call an offensive foul on him. I look in general. I think it's like a little bit of both. Where I definitely agree he doesn't get a great whistle, but I also think like if you're just driving kind of blindly at times, they're not going to give you the whistle, and he has to.
Cat the new Melo? This is what it honestly reminds me so much of this because Melo had a bad relationship with the refs, and he didn't get. I mean, I think even you would admit he didn't get good calls. Schwinn.
I don't think he did, but also like he hasn't gotten these calls all year. So why the fuck are you expecting them to start?
But that's exactly what we went through with Melo. It's better now because he's not the number one guy. But that's what it reminds me of. I don't know if you guys see that parallel at all, or
I'd rather not draw a parallel between the two. But
if Melo was our number two, it'd be not as bad, right?
No comment. It's his day. Congratulations to Melo. Deserved Hall of Famer. No question about that.
Feels like Groundhog Day. See, you know that reference, but you don't know Wedding Crashers? Wow, Con.
No,
I'm just seeing your caption now.
I just know like the term because I've heard it in passing before.
You haven't seen the movie?
No.
No. We gotta set these guys up with like a movie list. I don't know.
It's me and Zach, dude. You guys got to make a movie list for me and Zach because it's not good for us out here. We don't know what the fuck we got to watch.
Yeah. The Tony Dose says, I don't understand why Tibbs doesn't ever put Cat onto non-shooting wings like Okoro or Javante Green. Multiple moments in that second quarter run by the Cavs where he could have been hit on Okoro/Green. From your lips to Tibbs's ears would be fantastic, but I don't see that happening. Say 2-on-2 difference between shot quality. Cavs go early off rebound. Knicks find ways to walk up the court too. I know we're on the second night of a back-to-back. Cat was not, and that was disappointing. Also, I don't know why Cat hates giving the ball to Kolek. Shit feels cold. I agree. 2 of his turnovers became because he decided that he could not give Kolek or Delon Wright the ball. He tried to force it to Josh Hart for no fucking reason. And that was annoying. And this is like this has happened multiple times now. Like, I'm sorry. 2 of the turnovers he had today were just so fucking stupid that it drove me nuts. But yes, I don't quite get that. Zoning permit.
Can we
Cat
talk
seems
about how
sort of-
good OG Anunoby is?
Yes, we can. Sorry, just trying to get to as many
At
comments as
some
we can.
point. At some point. Not right now.
Cat seems sort of sorts even in drop. I just have no idea how this guy gets gamed by every average player, but holds his own against fucking Nikola Jokic. Cat is an upgrade on Randall, who's literally the worst player in playoffs ever if we go by true shooting percentage. That's not much of a high bar. Our FO has a lot cut out for them to do in the summer with limited ammo. Yeah, I think again, my personal opinion is they would like to get a center and move Cat to the 4. That's my feeling.
Giannis?
I don't think.
I mean, I
Giannis
think
is-
if we get Giannis, we're trading Cat.
yeah,
I mean, well, Schwinn, you know more about, I think, the mechanics of our arsenal. Do you think Giannis is actually a realistic possibility? Because a lot of people talking about up. Also, KD. I know you're not a KD fan, but are those even realistic?
It's being very generous to me. As far as I mean, did you think we could trade for Cat after we did the Bridges trade? I didn't. And then we did. Like, I still think teams or people are coming to grips.
I think Randall was such a weird thing weird player to value, right?
But it's not just about the value. It's also about like what is the motivation for these teams. Like if the Bucks are trading Giannis, like, let's say they're like, all right, you know what? Giannis goes to them. He's like, look, the shit is done. Get me out of here. Like, just I need to leave. They can't tank. They don't have any of their picks for like the next 6 or 7 years. So they can't, and like it's not just like we gave up all these picks for Mikal Bridges. They gave up picks and they gave up swaps. So like they don't control their draft for years. So they can't just tank. So once you realize you can't tank, what is your best option?
Dallas called Milwaukee, right?
Correct.
Before the Lukic?
Yes.
So do you think that's why they didn't do it? Because looking now, I think
they
probably should have pulled the trigger, because I think
I think they didn't do it because they're not going to trade Giannis unless he asks out. That's what I think.
But looking at it now, it kind of feels like they should have did that.
Yeah, but
They should have done that the second they called him.
That to me, that's like, it's easy to say that, and that's just bullshit. That's not how it works. The guy won them a championship. You're not trading him unless he has to be traded. You're fucking Milwaukee. You want to make sure
Anthony Davis, who won the Lakers a championship.
Okay, do you want to compare the markets here?
Yeah, and also he won it next to another guy who was
he won it next to LeBron, and it's LA. Like, you can do things in LA. It's easier to be cold-hearted and ruthless in LA than it is in Milwaukee. Like, Giannis won them a championship. They are not trading him until he goes into their front office and it's like, I want to be traded. That's it. There's no fucking chance they're.
But if you get Luka Doncic,
you guys are talking to like the biggest Giannis fan that you probably know.
Are you Greek, Con?
No, I'm not actually.
He's Macedonian.
Yeah, kill it. No, I'm not gonna say that. You're probably talking to the biggest Giannis fan that you know, and at the end of the day, you have to make that call. Yeah, Giannis, you were an all-time great here. You won a championship. Like you said, the fact that we don't have control of our draft means that we should have taken that deal even more so.
Because then you got a 25-year-old who's like,
again, you're like, logically, yes, this is different. Like, you are not trading a guy. You did not win a championship since fucking 1972 or whatever with Oscar Robertson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Giannis came to Milwaukee and brought you a championship. You are not trading that guy unless he tells you, I want to be traded.
I mean, we traded Clyde.
Again, like, that's not even close to the same thing. It's just not.
You think Giannis is better than Clyde?
Yes.
I have no clue about like the state of the NBA when Clyde Frazier was in
Yeah,
Knicks, so I
that's the
don't-
other thing.
No,
like,
Schwinn is right, but also fuck Schwinn.
okay, well, it's fine. Like the point is, like, this is like if Giannis asks out, they would trade him. They're not going to trade him a second before that. Like OKC did the same thing. They held Kevin Durant into free agency because he never went to them and said, I'm going to leave. I would like to trade out. So they held on
I
to
think
him.
a lot of teams have learned from that mistake, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Have
with
they?
that.
How do we know that? What like awesome player?
What player
out of
has
college-
gone? What player has left in free agency for nothing? None since then.
Like
And
it's
it could have
KD and
happened. It could
Kyrie.
happen to.
Right, but that's the point. Until these
Well,
guys
KD
tell
got
you,
a sign and trade with.
but until these
Yeah,
guys tell
Bill
you,
Russell.
until these guys tell you, I want to leave, you don't trade them. That's literally how the league works now. Like we got very, very fortunate with Jalen Brunson. Aside from that, no star just walks in free agency. I guess Paul George. Congratulations, congratulations to the Philadelphia 76ers.
And Brunson also wasn't a star yet.
Yeah.
Right, so.
All right. I'm trying to get to as many comments as I can, but we're trying to also do a real pod here. The only way out of this team / contending is this from Retro is a star wanting out to New York and the other front office is wanting a star in quotes in return, like Cat. Yeah. And I would just say, like, I think depending on if Milwaukee doesn't have, again, they cannot tank. Like Cat's not like, you're like, all right, well, we can't tank. We're not going to be as good, but we can't tank. Like, how many guys allow us to still be good while not tanking?
You probably have
Cat-
to send Bridges too, right? Cat
Why?
and Bridges.
I mean, you can, but then the money's
The
uneven.
dollars,
And you got to get something
it-
back, and then it gets messy.
You would have to send
But
Bridges
this
to a
Cat,
third team.
Cat does have that insane contract.
You'd have to
yeah.
send him to a third team. I still think that there are a lot of things that can happen. The CBA is change the value of contracts and players and all kinds of things. I don't think.
Do you think the people are overstating how much the Knicks are quote unquote stuck?
Yes.
Yes, good players have value. Like, I'm sorry that even if you like Mikal, let's say Mikal Bridges, you think he's not worth the picks. Yeah, I guarantee you, if the Knicks were like, we're gonna trade Mikal Bridges, they would get something good for him. Like they would get value for Mikal Bridges in trade. They would get value for OG.
Maybe not 5 picks, but
But they
I mean,
wouldn't want picks. This is the problem that like people fundamentally do not get. If you're good and you've traded out your picks, right? I'm not trading a good player then for fucking picks. I want good players back. Because I need to be good. I don't have an option to suck. And look at how many teams now are in that position. Phoenix, like people can sit here and throw fucking all these. Oh, this team could offer them 3 first-round picks and that shit and that. Okay, but Phoenix doesn't want to suck. They want to be good. Whether you think that's stupid or not, that's what they want. That's like they want to be good. So they're not just going to trade fucking Kevin Durant for a bunch of theoretical value. Like they're going to trade him for actual guys that can help them win basketball games on the floor, even if they're not in aggregate as good as Kevin Durant. Like, you know, these teams
is
don't
Kevin
have
Durant that good?
It's a question that remains unsolved to many people. All right. You know what? I think a lot of these things. All right. Yeah. Here's Dorcosaurus Rex says this.
That's a great
AJ,
name.
Yeah, it is a good name. It's a great name.
Is that Omar's burner?
AJ Mitchell plays for OKC, number 38 pick. Yep. Baylor Shireman has played 100 plus more minutes for the Celtics. Landry Shamet, 1 of 5 from 3 tonight. He can only shoot well against G League teams. Yeah, tough night for him. It's what it is.
Landry Shamet will be playing for Panathinaikos in about 2 years.
Yeah, I gotta address this too. When will wild takes, Stacy, don't die on this hill, bro. I'm not defending Landry Shamet. My point was actually that even if you think Shamet is a better player than Dadier, it probably makes sense to play Dadier unless it's like in these games where, you know, you're trying to just see what you have. I mean, you should be trying to see what you have, but I'm not dying on the Landry Shamet hill.
Poxter says, being mad about this game feels stupid. There are wins in our recent streak that could warrant more backlash, to be fair. I don't think it's about, like, I'm not mad that they lost. I'm more reacting to, like, their approach and their general strategy to things. But I agree. Like, I'm not exactly worked up about them losing the game. I expected them to lose the game.
Yeah, but does it not bother you that Have we been within single digits against any of these top 3 teams? And I think it's interesting because we have kicked the shit out of Memphis and Denver. We've done well against Milwaukee. Like we're good against good teams. Against the very elite, we're not only not good, we're just getting the shit kicked out of us. Well, does that not concern you? And today we didn't have Brunson, but yeah.
I mean, it doesn't concern me today, which is this. But in general, yeah, of course it concerns me. I'm not like a fucking moron. Like, yeah, it concerns me that we don't look remotely competitive and don't look like we're even playing the same fucking sport when we're playing these teams.
But how can that disparity be so bad, right? We can kick the shit out of Denver.
I think it tells you something. I think it tells you that our talent is actually quite good just on the merits of its talent. But when you play the best teams, you need more than talent. Like, you need more. Look at Cleveland. Cleveland is the best fucking example of this. It is basically the same roster. And they've been wildly better than they were under J.B. Bickerstaff.
You don't think because Donovan Mitchell is better than Brunson?
No, I don't. And I think J.B. Bickerstaff was an okay coach. He's a good coach. He might end up just being exactly what Tibbs is, where it's like he's a really good coach to take you from point A to point B and maybe to point C, but he's never going to get you to. He's very unlikely to get you to the final step because he's not creative enough. He's not, and maybe that's wrong about Bickerstaff. Maybe he'll have learned from his time in Cleveland or something. But Tibbs, to me, I mean, I don't know. I don't really see much from him that I'm like, oh, this is super creative and innovative. And it also makes sense because isn't he the oldest coach in the league other than Popovich at this point? Like, it's not. I've discovered.
Well, our last 2 presidents have been the oldest presidents in history. So clearly, this is the way the world is trending, and it's working out really well.
Yeah. I discovered yesterday that he's actually he's 4 years older than Jeff Van Gundy. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
What?
I did not know that. Yeah, Tibbs is 4 years older than Jeff Van Gundy. I had no idea about that.
But he worked for Van Gundy.
Yeah, but either way, that doesn't matter. He's younger than him or older than him.
When Hubie Brown gets hired by the Grizzlies, this conversation will change, flip on its head. Have you guys not seen those rumors?
Wait,
no.
What?
Hubie Brown, like he was.
I've seen that Twitter account. There's a really good Twitter account that's like a Hubie Brown. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Con.
He was like the odds-on favorite from like all these different Vegas books to like get the Grizzlies job or some shit like that. And it
was a fake. It was not a fake thing. I think that was a fake thing. That was fake.
Was it fake? Did I get Sentel? God damn it!
Yeah, you got Sentel for sure.
He's not young. He's younger than Rick Pitino, which I just looked up. Former Knicks coach, who's doing well. So maybe it's not. Maybe don't be so ageist, Schwinn. Rick Pitino just saved St. John's.
Nice. Yeah. So I'm going to bring this comment up because I think it's interesting. I just had to find it. But this was the one that was brought up today. Or sorry, I got to find that exact one here. But the only way out of this team contending is to start running out to New York, and the other front office wanting to start in return. And that's interesting because today on the Pat McAfee show, Shams went on and was asked about Kevin Durant. And he listed, he talked about how Kevin Durant's probably on his way out. And there are a number of teams that registered interest in him at the trade deadline and that he had mutual interest in. And one of those teams was allegedly, the New York Knicks. So, I have a lot of thoughts about Kevin Durant, but I guess my question would be like, all right, this is the one I want to pull up. Bucks are not doing Cat for Giannis unless they pull Nico Harrison. The likely outcome is KD to shake up the roster with a different kind of star. I don't even know what the hell KD makes. I'm sure he makes plenty of money because all the worst people in the world make a lot of money. Kevin Durant is
48 mil.
Yeah, 48. Yeah, he's making 51.1 this year. 54.7 next year. So Cat for him would work for them. We'd have to throw in a minimum salary to a third team, and so that we would be able to stay just hard capped at the second apron. Leaving aside this cap mechanics, I think this is kind of an interesting question. Leaving aside the fact that I hate Kevin Durant, if you trade Karl-Anthony Towns for Kevin Durant,
is there a way to get that done without doing that?
you could trade
No.
OG and McCall or Hart and OG and yeah, like there are
And
other
those
ways to
all
do it.
Conversations.
Right. So if you were to do like Cat for KD, I think it's kind of weird because we traded for Cat because we didn't have a center or a good enough starting center, and Mitch was not healthy to start the season. You would kind of create that hole again, and then you'd be putting a lot of eggs into the we believe in Mitchell Robinson to stay healthy and Ariel Huckporty's development, and maybe we'll bring back Precious Bucket. Like that seems like a bridge too far for me, but
A bridge is too far.
yeah, maybe. But I also think that you could. I mean, then maybe you're talking about trading Bridges for a center or whatever. There's multiple moving steps to this. I just don't like it because I'm sorry, Kevin Durant's 37. Karl-Anthony Towns, for all of his flaws, and all we can talk about is his flaws, he's going to be an All-NBA center, and he's 29 years old. Like, that seems relevant. Like, the age does matter. The fact that you're short, if you get Kevin Durant, you're shortening your window. He needs a new contract because he's an expiring contract next year. So, are you willing to throw Kevin Durant a 2-year extension and lock him up to age 38, 39? I don't know.
I mean, can you get it done with Mitch, Hart? I guess you have to include Bridges, right? If you're not including Cat.
Yes.
See, like, I'm just not doing any of these trades for KD, honestly.
I think if anything that we've learned over the last couple of years is that guys always become available, and there's always ways for teams that look like they're stuck or whatever to make moves. And quite honestly, I don't think this team is nearly as far away as it looks right now at times. I do think that there's a coaching deficit that we're facing that exacerbates these issues against the best teams. And I also expect the depth to be better next year because, like,
Dadier.
I mean, it's forgetting even the rookies. Like, I think they have a better understanding of what they need going into the free agent market. Like, they didn't do the Cat trade until the day before fucking training camp started. So you'll have a much more informed approach to free agency just from the start because you know what the bigger pieces of your roster look like. And they've been resourceful. They've been creative. Like, what do they really need here that we're talking about? Like, I think they need another wing, and I think they probably would like either another starting center a starting center they trust more than Mitchell Robinson. Might
To
be
stay
the
healthy,
idea.
right?
Yeah, just to stay healthy.
So I wanted to bring this up from Tay 212. Would you do AD for Cat? And I wanted to bring this up specifically because we disagreed about this before, Schwinn. We had spoke about this, like, I want to say a month, maybe 2 months back. That whatever the
I think it was after. I think it was right after the Luka trade.
It was right after AD got hurt.
Yeah,
that's when it was. And my answer was hell no. Your answer was yeah, I probably would. And I think I'm a yes.
I don't even think it was probably. I would do it. I would do it. I 100% do it.
So
like if Dallas calls me right now and they're like, we'll give you AD, you have to give us Cat, I'd be like, thank you, Karl-Anthony Towns, for your 1 year of service.
But why would Dallas ever make a stupid trade?
Right.
I don't know. They have no history of doing it, so probably thinking a bit too wishfully. But yeah, the Cat stuff, like I went from being extremely out on him being a part of a contending team when we first got him to then about 30 to 45 games through the season being like, yeah, I could definitely see him being like a critical part of a contender. And then now I'm back out. Like, the roller coaster with him is just not something I like to, be along for the ride with. I want to see them move him for somebody this season. I really hope it's Giannis. And I wanted to expand a bit before on when we talked about if we're kind of just like asked out on assets and whatnot. You traded specifically the picks in 2025, 27, 29, 31 because with the new league year, you gain access to the pick in 2033. So you're going to have that chip that you can trade. Like you said before, the Bucks don't control any of their drafts. You can give them the ability to control all of our drafts with our pick swaps if anything were to go wrong. And then you can also throw in the deuce, chip if you want to, if that's where you want to, allocate that to.
Is
So
Giannis better than Deuce though? Giannis can't shoot.
no, Giannis definitely can't shoot. He can only shoot when he plays for Greece. So that's an issue for us.
I'm keeping Deuce then.
Dorkosaurus Rex says, "Isn't Giannis a bit old?" And I had this memorized because I'm weird. He's about like 10 months older than Cat. So
I actually think the Giannis thing is pretty interesting because if you trade for Giannis, I don't think he can play center. Like I think he doesn't do the shit you want defensively.
Unless you're playing like the Celtics. I think he played against the Celtics, not against the Cavs, and probably not against OKC.
Even against the Celtics, I don't trust him defensively to like anchor the defense for 48 minutes a night. And I don't think he wants to do it for 48 minutes a night.
Agree.
So
I agree.
So
with
like
you.
if he doesn't want to do it, so you
But
trade
even Draymond didn't play the 5, right? So can he be that? I guess that would be the question.
I mean, I think that the Draymond thing I don't give a fuck about. That's its own separate thing.
My point is,
but that works because he plays with Steph.
For like 50. Even if he can play for 50,
that works. That worked because he played with Steph. Like we don't have Steph, so we don't have that.
But are you saying Giannis should never play the 5? Or
no? I'm saying that he doesn't want to do it. It's not his full-time position, so he's going to do it sometimes, maybe situationally at the end of games. But like he's not going to do it full time. So if you get him, then you still need to get a 5. And we all know that with Giannis, the 5 you get better be able to shoot from better be able to spread the floor because you cannot clog the paint with Giannis. I think there are very interesting discussions to be had about that. And I think there are interesting discussions to be had about, the pairing with him and Dame has not been perfect. And Dame, obviously last year, he had a down year. This year, Dame's been good when he's been healthy. And even then, they've kind of been like, they're not as great or as dominant as you'd think they should be. So I don't know. I wonder about that a lot. Like Giannis is definitely better than Cat, but the mechanics of then like filling out the roster in a way that still gets the most out of Giannis and therefore the team is not easy. And that's something that you need to have figured out if you're going to make that move, I think, because, he's only a year older than Cat, but we're already in a win now window or something. So if this dream scenario occurred, you need to make sure that you already have an idea of what you're going to do. Like now, is that like, oh, we can get fucking Brook Lopez to sign with us from free agency? Maybe that's all it is. We know they can work together. So that's cool. Brook is also 37 years old. So you probably need more to it than just getting Brook Lopez. But yeah, those are like some of my thoughts about the entire thing about Giannis.
I have 2 thoughts on that. One, I have thought about the Brook thing. And I think you can get him to come here if you were to trade for Giannis. I think you'd be able to get him here for the taxpayer mid-level, which I think is around, I think it's like $6.5 something million this upcoming season, whatever that might be. Just because of familiarity, right? And like knowing Giannis, wanting to keep playing with him. The second thing I thought of, and this is maybe a little bit of a long shot just because of the team that he currently plays on, but Miles Turner needs a new contract and he's going to be a free agent. I wonder if there's a sign and trade to be had over there, because if you can work anything out, like Miles Turner and Giannis together, Miles gives you the spacing at the 5, gives you that rim protection. I would put Josh Hart on the table, like without even flinching, right? I think we all
need
would.
More than that. Miles Turner's shooting.
And if you were ever able to finagle a trade like that, and then you go into the season with Brunson, Mikal, OG, Giannis, and Miles Turner, I kind of don't even care about what the bench is. Like it's going to get filled out with, the minimum salary guys and some cheap second round picks who they like. It's gonna be way more than Josh Hart. I agree. Like it's gonna be Josh Hart. It's gonna be, you're probably gonna I just see this real quick pop up from Dorkosaurus Rex. Why would the Pacers move on from Miles? I think they have like some cap issues coming up because they paid Nemhard and they have to pay like
it might put
a
them on
thing
the
that
cap.
you check on. That's the guy who I thought was like, if you get Giannis, this is like an ideal fit type of guy. And I didn't see many other guys over there, Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if the Pacers would move off of Miles Turner. It was rumored that they might. It'd be interesting. I also just, I don't know, like it feels. I kind of agree with the sentiment that Poxter shared about, I would take Giannis, but the combos on Cat are a little too harsh. I would like to see Cat with a new coach who's better fitted to a team like this. I do think that it's easier to just dismiss Cat and move on, or like want to move on. It just has to make sense though. Like I would not. I think the wrong thing to do would be to be desperate about it and feel like you need to make it happen right now, because I don't know. I just, the worst moves generally tend to be when you feel like forced.
Do you think the Bridges trade qualifies as that?
No, I think they wanted Bridges.
Okay.
But and I think they wanted Cat. Like they was part of their motivation that they don't have a fucking center right now. Of course, yeah, that was definitely part of the motivation. But like he was also a player they did want, so I think that fit the bill. Yeah, I don't know. The Cat conversation's tough because he's obviously had, I think as the season has gone on, we've seen increasingly his issues as a drop big defender. And it's hard to like not overreact. It's really hard, especially because in these games against Boston and OKC and Cleveland, there's been so many moments where you're like, holy shit, this guy's defense is brutal. His drop defense is brutal. But I would like to see that. I would like to see most of this team come back under a new coach. And I think they deserve that opportunity. Can they make moves to give them better depth? And does it make sense to wait a little bit longer and see if that opens up more opportunities for you in trades? I personally would work that way. That's not to say you do nothing this offseason, but like when I start hearing about like, oh, like KD and shit like that, I don't know. That just always that feels really like desperate to me.
Desperate.
I think, yeah, I think if you'd like when the Warriors traded for Butler, they were desperate. Like they were 100% desperate to get Jimmy Butler, but they were desperate because Steph is old and they don't have time. So like they're in a position where it's like, hey, you know what, Jimmy Butler, we can get this guy for not that much. We're going to pay him a lot of money, but it's worth it for us because we don't have a lot of time here. And I don't think we need to be in that mode quite yet.
Yeah. I just echo all those sentiments.
Trying to get to a few more comments here. Sorry. I think the Poxter says, I think the team should copy the Cleveland blueprint and the OKC blueprint. Prioritize depth. Knicks starting five is best in the NBA potential. Just get depth like Cleveland and OKC did. That's what my. That's what I
wait,
think.
isn't the OKC and Cleveland blueprint tanking?
Cleveland did
Darius
really
Garland, fourth round pick, a fourth overall pick. Evan Mobley, yeah, you can say, well, the Knicks got RJ and we got a bucket of coal and they got a present. Evan Mobley, third overall pick. They traded their picks for Mitchell. Isaac Okoro, fifth overall pick. And then OKC is a joke, right? What's the blueprint there? Just bench SGA for a million years. There's nothing. I don't think there's any respect there or any real blueprint there. It's suck for a million years and then you're good. Like, okay, fine.
But I think you're focusing more on the method and not like I think he's just talking about like add depth. No,
okay, you're starting to talk about how the team looks right now.
Like how they built it. I mean, Cleveland, sure, it doesn't like sure that's how they got a few of their guys, but ultimately the idea is they went all in and
It's
out.
literally how they got everyone. And even if you say SGA was a trade, they so we glorify these teams, but like you lucked into Harden, Westbrook, Durant, Ibaka, and you traded them for other stuff without winning shit, right? So
set aside OKC then. Just look at Cleveland. Like they basically whatever they got these other guys, how they got them. Like they traded for Allen, they drafted, Garland, and they drafted Mobley, but then they traded all
they
their
traded for Allen with what? Kyrie?
No, it was a first round pick. No, they traded. No,
They got him in the Harden trade.
Yeah, the Harden trade.
Right, but they had that first round pick that was valuable because of the Kyrie trade, wasn't it?
No, it was their own first round pick. It wasn't even that valuable. They used the pick they got from Boston for Sexton. But like then they traded everything for Donovan Mitchell, and then a year into it, everybody's like, "Oh my God, they're fucked." 2 years into it, we're like, "They're still kind of fucked," and now we're like, "Oh, actually, they could win the championship this year." But they, in the meantime, over the last couple of years, right, they added Max Strus. They added, they got Ty Jerome or whatever. They were able to add LeVert. Yeah, they were able to turn LeVert and Niang into they signed Niang, then they turned LeVert and Niang into DeAndre Hunter. They added, they have it. The idea is like you can add this incremental talent and depth over the next couple of off seasons, and then maybe next year, maybe the year after that, you're like really, really right there. You're a lot closer. But I don't think it's just talent in Cleveland too. I do think the coaching change made a big difference. But I agree with this point, and that's kind of the point I've been using all season. Is I think you need to like give it time, and I would not overreact to what the results are this year by making drastic roster changes again. Like you just had like 18 months of insane roster overhaul, maybe even more than 18 months, right? Like you basically had a team that went to the 2022-23 playoffs, and then over the next 14, 15, 16 months, you turned that into, you trade out a bunch of those guys and your picks, and you get OG, you get McCall, you get Cat. It's a lot of change, and it takes time to build up the depth again.
Yeah, I would highlight this comment from Tay212. Cavs still technically have Mobley on his rookie deal, and Garland was on his rookie deal when Strus was signed. It's a different situation. I mean, we don't have a guy like Mobley that can make the improvement now that we made the all-in trade. I mean, I think Paco Dadie was going to be that.
Well, to the point, I mean, Khan wanted to talk about this earlier, so it is worth talking about. We the one thing we didn't talk about this game is that OG Anunoby was awesome, but he's been awesome now for a while, and there have been real changes that have been occurring to his game. Like, do we think that this is something that's going to last now for the long haul, or do we think that OG Anunoby is what he is? Like, do you take this recent surge he's been on, I guess, as genuine growth in his game, or do you think that it's just like a nice bump that he's having in the short time, in the short term?
Based on what you said earlier, it's just he's getting more usage. I think the question is, can we take advantage of this when Brunson comes back, right? That's really, we couldn't beat these teams with Brunson. We lost today, but you're seeing more from Bridges and OG. How confident are you that that can last?
I am kind of torn on it, mostly because I think that some of the changes OG's made. I mean, today he was just hot from three, so I don't know what to really, whatever that is. But
that does seem to happen more often of late.
I mean, that's kind of the nature of guys that shoot threes, though, right? Is like they will have variance in their game. Do I think that you can use him better than we have in conjunction with Brunson when Brunson is back?
I think that's likely to happen, though.
Not with this coach, but with another, sure. Yeah, I think it's very, very possible. And I think that's kind of the debate to have is how much of what Cleveland is doing, how much of this improvement that we're seeing from Garland and Mobley is just, well, they're talented and they were young and they got better, versus also like, yeah, but their coach is using them better. Like, what's the, how do we kind of,
Delta there, yeah. How do you
yeah,
distill kind of the causes?
yeah, and I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I think the coaching has a lot more to do with it than just they're individually talented, but they play in a way that all of those guys are eating now. They play well together. You're getting the maximum of these guys while they operate on the same team. We have not seen us get them. Now, how many times early in the season were we like, man, it would be nice to see all four of these guys play well on a given night, or this guy he never seems to have it when this other guy doesn't, when this guy isn't going. Like, one of the things that we talked about earlier in the year was how Mikal and OG never seemed to be able to get it going at the same time. And is that because they're fun, they just can't do that? Or is that something about how they're being used and how we're playing?
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, that's where I would kind of look at. I think that there are ways to improve internally with potentially coaching change. And then, yeah, your front office has work to do. Like, they have to build out the depth again. And part of that.
But you do think it's more building out the depth than getting another star, right?
Yeah, I don't know I don't know how to answer that question.
Like, well, yeah, it is a tough question to answer. But is it possible to build out with more of these? We used to ask this question, right? I used to say, before we got Cat, right, I used to ask, can we Josh Hart our way, like these kind of moves, get these Josh Hart types, and it's not the same type of player, but those kind of moves to get ourselves where we're not getting a star, but we're getting enough of these very good role players to build it out. And I think now we're in a different situation, right? Where we have a true superstar, a true number two, Bridges whatever he is, and OG together is like a number three by committee. Can we, is it just fringe moves that can get us there? Or do you think, I think there's a lot of people who still believe it's another superstar, right? But I think, to your point, it's a tough question to answer. And I think that's the difficult thing with the KD thing, because like on the surface at a basketball level, there's a lot of questions, but it's also, one of the top 25 players ever, right? So,
yeah, I think to me, it's just an age thing. Like, if you're gonna go get KD, regardless of, it doesn't even matter who we trade out. Forget who it is that we trade out to get KD in this scenario where we get KD. There's no building incrementally. There's no, we have to manage the depth out. Like, you need to get guys in now and win now, because your timeline is so shortened. You're going from any of these guys you trade are like 28, 29, 30 to 37, right? Going like entering age 37 season. As productive as he is, there's obviously going to be durability concerns with him in the short and whatever long term you can imagine with him as a player. And then, that's not even getting into the stuff with him. Like, he's like, every team that he's been on recently ends up becoming miserable. Like the Warriors, even by the end of his time there, they won championships.
Is he Livia Soprano?
Maybe. I don't know. But like, by the time he was done in Golden State, they were like, I think Kerr had a quote where he was like, it was the most miserable season of my time here, the last season there. And then we know the Nets thing was a fucking disaster. That's not all on him, but like, I don't know, if you're a star player at some point, like, these scenarios seem to keep following you around, and like, you seem to just keep finding situations that make you miserable and make the team miserable and everybody around you miserable, and you don't win. So I don't know what to do with that, because the numbers are the numbers. He's great. I think he's 50, 40, 90 again this year. I think it's 25, 5-5 or something. Like, the numbers are still there, but the KD experience for the last three teams that he's been on, the end of them has been miserable for those teams. So, he's the common denominator. I don't know. And then, as far as like, I just don't know that you have enough after this 1 year to say the fix is getting a different star.
Well, you're either doing that or then you have to fire a coach, right? But you kind of have to pick a lane.
I think even if you keep the same coach, though, your depth needs to be better. Like, your depth needs to improve. And I think that, like, I wonder this, because after we destroyed Cleveland in the 2023 playoffs, there are a ton of Cavs fans that were like, we need to fire the coach. The coach is not good enough. This needs to improve. And obviously they didn't fire JB Bickerstaff after that year. They went out, right? They signed Max Strus. They signed Niang. I don't know if Sam Merrill was on the team in 2023, but he definitely played more the following season. Is that, like, do you give Tibbs another chance in a year where you're like, okay, you know what? Maybe you didn't do a good enough job, but our depth wasn't good enough, and we need to address that before we truly kind of evaluate you. Now, if that's the case, okay, so be it. But you need to improve the quality and caliber of your depth, I think, regardless of whether or not you make a coaching change. And that, to me, seems more of a intelligent way of going about improving this team and making it more competitive than doing what, just, well, you know what, this didn't work this year. We're done with Cat. Let's move him for KD or whatever the fuck. I think that, nobody on this team should be off the table aside from Brunson, but that one feels like it just feels like you're more upset that it didn't work out in year one, and you're not willing to make improvements that could see it maybe change your opinion of that in a second season.
Fair enough.
This is from Tay212. OG did this when Brunson got hurt in the Pacers series. It looks ugly, but he can get about 20.
You can get more than that. I mean, he got 28 with Brunson playing game 4. So before he got hurt, and that was what?
That was game 2, but yes, the same. Yeah, it was game 2 they got hurt in. But yeah, that's correct. Poxer says, KD feels like the Butler trade, except none of our players are 30 plus. Yes. That's why I don't fully get it. It just feels like you're shortening your window. And then I really don't, I think you have to do so much more with your roster after you trade KD, because I don't trust your centers at that point.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Zach Kolilovich. I don't get what happened to Mikal. He turned into budget DeRozan.
Yeah, I mean, the mid-range shot diet is what it is. He is really efficient at it. I think he is underrated on defense. He's a lot better than DeRozan is, but that 3-point volume needs to come up if he's going to play that role. So that also might be its own multi-year problem. I mean, we talk about the coaches adapting and the front office adapting, but the players change too. Mitchell himself has talked about, going back to the Cavs example, taking a step back, dialing down the usage, picking his spots better. That's allowed other guys to thrive. Brunson is probably going to have to do that in some way this season or next. And, that's part of the evolution too.
Yeah, I don't know. The Mikal 3-point volume thing is very odd. It's actually, it's come down from last year, but it's higher than it was last year in Phoenix, or sorry, it's last 2 years in Phoenix. One of them even being split in Brooklyn, obviously. He's got to be more willing to shoot threes, especially above the break. It's very odd how much the stuff swings game to game as well with him. I think that's not what we expected. I definitely thought the 3-point volume would tick up. So it's, yeah, I mean, that needs to be addressed. And maybe that's a conversation that you have at the end of the season. And that's like, between the front office and him. And, you just talk to him and be like, look, we're going to pay you. We want you to be here long term. We need these things from you. We need you to be able to shoot. We need you to be willing to shoot more threes and not hesitate on that. And that's obviously been an issue with him all season. Defensively, I'm not that down on him. I think that he's been asked to do a lot of thankless work, and he's being put in situations that don't help him. And on top of it, you have a coach who seems very much married to his scheme and is not creative and willing to adjust and adapt more than he is. I mean, I'm just watching like the fucking Pistons play with Thunder right now, and they're like throwing a zone at them and stuff like that. Like look, the Pistons are undermanned here. They're down, I don't know what the hell they're down, 15, 16 points. But that's kind of the point. It's like when you're undermanned, you have to throw the kitchen sink at it. And that doesn't ever really seem to happen with Tibbs. Like the kitchen sink just involves demanding your players execute better, compete harder, and those type of things. And I think there's more to it than that. And that stuff impacts players individually. And I think that certainly impacted Mikal Bridges this season. All right. I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks to everybody for the comments. Appreciate your time. Stacy, do you have anything to plug before we get out of here?
Nope, it's a plug on my end.
All right. I have nothing to plug, so I'll just plug all the work at Strickland. Check it out. Everybody's doing a lot of good shit. The recaps have been great lately. And check out the pods, everything else. All right. That is our show for today. Hope everybody has a great evening. We'll have the pod out for you with me and Prez on Friday. So look out for it then. Until then, peace.